In this time of George facing life, were you ever afraid that he might take it out on you?
Yes. I just always had that kind of fear in the back of my mind.
What was he doing and saying that indicated to you this is more than someone reacting to pressure? I could be in danger with my husband, at the hand of my husband.
I'm not going to talk about that. I feel that I relinquished a lot of my power, and I didn't need to.
Were there things you learned not to do around your husband? Don't say, don't do?
Sure.
That could set him off? Like what?
Well, just I would tiptoe around him so that I didn't stress him out.
Do you know what that tells people listening to this? What people will assume? Here's a man who denied he has a temper and explained away the incident with the officer where he allegedly attacked the officer, the smashing his ex-fiancée in the mouth because she was chewing gum. We're hearing his current wife express that you were afraid because of his temper. Can you shed any more light on that?
I was certainly afraid that there could be a first time for everything.
Do you believe that he hit his girlfriend in the mouth just because, according to her, they were in the car after a counseling session, she was chewing gum and he smacked her in the mouth because she was chewing gum?
I believe it's possible, yes.
What would happen if you said, knock it off, George, or matched his temper, whatever that was? Were you afraid of doing that, and what would have happened?
I just didn't want to be the cause of any more stress. He was already under so much stress, so I was not afraid necessarily that he was going to kill me like I said, there's always a first time for everything.
On February 26, 2012, last year, what was going on with George when he set out and came upon Trayvon?
I can't answer that.
Why were you not with him that night?
I was staying at my father's house. We had gotten into an argument the night before, and I left.
Can you share what the argument was about?
Not at this time. This isn't the right time for that.
Did it enrage him enough to go out with a vengeance, looking for someone to take his rage out on?
I don't think so. Not by his actions or his behavior, but you would have to ask him that.
The first witness who ran out after George had shot Trayvon testified on the stand that George tossed him the phone, asked him to call my wife, and so the witness then got on the phone to you, he testified, and started to say, Mrs. Zimmerman, and started to say what was going on. And George barked in, just tell her to shot somebody. What did he mean by that?
I couldn't tell you.
Do you remember him telling you that?
I
Or
remember
did you
the
overhear
witness calling me and telling me, as far as I remember, your husband has been involved in a shooting.
Was George, do you feel, possibly blaming you or saying, I told you so? It makes some wonder. Was there something earlier going on with George and Shellie, or that Shellie knew about, or that George was involved in that night that had enraged him? And then when he had shot Trayvon, said, see, Shellie?
I don't know, but I've thought of that many times.
And what have you thought?
That it certainly does sound blaming, the way that comes across. In particular, the fact that we had gotten into an argument the evening before.
I think most people believe the normal person doesn't walk out a door with a gun loaded, but he did. And without a safety, that gun had no safety. Why was he carrying a gun as a watchman, a neighborhood watchman?
Well, he always carried a gun. That's
Why?
because he believes in his constitutional right of self-defense to bear arms.
How many guns does he have? What's his attitude toward guns?
I'm not going to answer that.
And why not?
That's for him to tell you.
Were you ever worried that George might get mad enough to shoot you or accidentally hurt you, or, even if he didn't mean it, since a loaded gun was in the house and with him?
I'm not going to answer that.
Trayvon's parents, they had to watch their son's dead body on the screen so many times, and it was, as you can imagine, wrenching for them. Do you have anything to say to Trayvon's parents?
If I could speak to them, I would say that I'm so deeply sorry for their loss.
Are you sorry for George's role in the death of Trayvon?
Of course.
To what extent? Is there any blame you place on George whatsoever? He says it was justifiable in self-defense and the jury believed him. But is there a part of you that says, you didn't have to do that, there could have been something else you could have done? Run. Announce who I am, who you are. Was there something else you feel George should have done that night?
I think there are always alternate methods someone can take, but hindsight is 20/20.
Specifically in this very high-profile, sensitive case, what could he have done? And have you talked to him about it? Have you talked to George and said, or has he said anything to you, I wish I'd done this instead, or not done this?
I'm not going to answer anything that George has confided in me.
When he came home with all those injuries, did you believe that he really got them as he claimed he did? Especially considering he said that Trayvon pounded him against the pavement, yet there was a cut at the top of his head. Did you question, how did you get a cut on the top of your head?
No.
So then he's arrested. What did he think about being arrested?
I'm not going to answer that.
And is there a reason particularly?
That's his story. That's his journey.
You met George, and for at least a while, he was kind of the tag-along with you. And he was, my understanding, in love with you and wanting you to marry him. Is that correct? And you weren't so sure?
That's correct.
And then what happened? How'd you get together?
Well, we were really good friends, and he kind of just told me that he was in love with me, a wonderful friendship, and I just thought, why not see where this goes? Give it a chance.
And is he a very changed man from the guy you fell in love with and married?
Yes.
Has he ever physically or mentally abused you?
I'm not going to answer that right now.
That leaves the impression that maybe it's true. Can you share why you won't answer that? The long pause. What are you thinking?
I think I need a break.
Okay. That's fine. Okay, let's take a break.